You are listening to Been There, Done That. We present some of the smartest people connected to the business of coffee. People who've succeeded in the tough grind of hospitality by staying ahead of the rest. So join us as we explore the secrets to their success and help you accelerate your business. This show is brought to you by the Coffee Commune, where the coffee community comes to collaborate. Enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Phil DeBella, and you're listening to another episode of Been There and Done That, where we bring amazing people that have done exactly that. They've been there and done that. No 2-minute noodles on this show. Only people that have earned their spot. And today I have one of the icons of this industry, Simon Gloftis. Simon, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure, mate.
Oh, mate, tell me, the pleasure's all mine, I assure you. We met many, many years ago, I think 20-odd years ago, when you started a venture called Three Beans.
That's right.
And you took it from a shitty little espresso bar to an iconic espresso bar on the Gold Coast. A bit about what I want to do with you today, because, we could spend bloody 20 episodes just on you. What I want to do is unpack the success story of what is Simon, and for the listeners to understand, they know that I always talk about, you don't look at the 20 stories, look at the foundations and what it takes to get there. And sometimes a few stories need to be trimmed down to gain back up. So in the next half an hour or so, I just want listeners to get a feel. They'll know your brands, and I'm about to mention them. They'll know your brands. They might not know you. A lot of people will know you. But a great success story, but I want to unpack that a little bit of that journey, and what comes at the end is not only a celebration of what you've achieved, but also for listeners to get inspired and have a bit more value about whether they're in hospitality or not. Everyone's in hospitality, right? So if they attend hospitality venues, to be a little bit more appreciative and understand what goes behind them. And if they're looking to get into hospitality, that they do their homework, their research, and be ready for it. And if they're in hospitality, keep fighting the good fight. How does that sound?
100%. Sounds great.
So let's start. How did it all start for Simon? So I met you at Three Beans, but if you want to go before that, up to you.
Three Beans is a funny story. I still get people coming up to me about but I only had it for 1 year.
Yeah.
So that was the interesting thing with Three Beans. But, mate, my father had flea markets back in the day. So I actually set up stalls at the flea markets, corn on the cob, homemade lemonade.
What age?
I started probably about 14, 15. Well, I started younger than that, but with my own stalls, probably about 14, 15.
Yeah, cool.
And ended up sort of making more money than I could all week just in the one day. And I was like, oh, shit, yeah, right. But, and spent it all by the end of the day.
Good days.
Yeah, exactly. It was good fun. But that's how it sort of started. And then, to be honest with you, I never really knew that I wanted to be in hospitality, even though I was well and truly in it. So I started working for a friend of mine at a pizza shop in Rabina on the Gold Coast called Lestrada. I was washing dishes, delivering pizzas, whatever. Started making the pizzas, had a bit of a knack for it. And then, I don't know why, but it just kept rolling. It kept rolling from there into the cafes, into the restaurants and things.
Yeah, because, I've been good Greek background. Of course, as a fellow WOG, being Italian, good hospitality, that sense of values and that. So it obviously all started with the family instilling that.
100%. No one actually in the family was in hospitality as such, which was a bit strange, but we have that. I think we have that built in us, and that's the one thing. We had family dinner every night. We all sit around the table, and we sort of did things, and took for granted that dining and that hospitality without even realising we were doing it at the time.
Yeah, and that's something I talk a lot about, is those values that really set the foundations of who we are today, right? I see it come through in your restaurant. So some of you might be wondering, who's Simon? Well, let me tell you the brands. Hellenika, obviously started on the Gold Coast, but then now famous here in Brisbane. Hellenika Gold Coast is gone, I believe. SK Steak and Oyster. You've got Sunshine Mediterranean, and you've got Sushi Room. And I'm sure, no doubt, he might give us a bit of a snippet of what's to come. But those brands are iconic. They are Brisbane's, go-to institutions. Many of those are in the top 50 year after year since their inception. And I believe most of the people listening to this would have dined there. And if you haven't, you need to go there. You'll enjoy it. So, but I want to reverse it back to where it all started. Good old hospitality values, so things we see in your venues today, obviously come from your upbringing and the rest of it. So let's talk through your first, I call it your golden child. Your first one was obviously Fish Cafe. Would you call that your first golden, or Hellenika?
Fish House.
The Fish House, or would you?
Hellenika was so after my cafes, Hellenika was and still is, I'll be honest with you, my baby.
Yep.
So it's the one that I have the most emotional attachment to it. I mean, to the point of, on the Gold Coast, it was an old methadone clinic building on the Gold Coast Highway in Nobby Beach.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't have sort of worked.
Yes.
I was doing a Greek restaurant and I wasn't compromising at all. So to the point of someone asked me if they want, tomato sauce, I'd say no.
Yeah.
This sort of thing. So I had to, because we're in Queensland, we had that inferiority complex. So I had to go like way, way, way above what someone interstate would do, to the point of the bricks on the wall were from the old Spencer Street station in Melbourne. I actually picked them and flew them up. This sort of thing went crazy, crazy lengths. I took some of my childhood recipes, made sure that they, I suppose could be on the plate in a restaurant. But some of the dishes, to charge people for them, was a little bit strange because I'm thinking, shit, this is what I just eat at home.
Yeah.
But I wanted to keep it traditional, and I didn't want to negotiate my values at all from the start. And it was, I think it held me in good stead because people then trusted me. Yeah. And I think that's the important part in hospitality, the trust, knowing that, even if you don't love the restaurant or it's not your favorite or it's not perfect, at least that when you go there, you're sort of going to be looked after and have a decent time.
Yeah, look, I agree with that. And so it started with the vision, obviously, and it's homage to your Greek heritage and your baby, so to speak, because of that. And talk us through what was going through your mind when you opened that, right? Because you were taking a big risk, as you said. And that's what this show's all about, is bringing out people having a go and understanding why the success today. Because you don't open success.
No.
It starts with a vision in an area that no one would have touched, doing things that people wouldn't have. And I remember coming into the restaurant going, hey, this feels like I've just walked into someone's amazing Greek house. So talk us through what was going through your mind apart from that.
Well, like I said, I didn't negotiate any of my values at all. So I wanted to be, every little detail was thought about. And I'm sort of a creative person, so I live in my head a lot. And, it was years and years in the making. Everything on the menu was there for a reason. The furniture was chosen for a reason. The way the entry was for a reason. The floor tiles were for a reason. The way the kitchen was, the pass, every single thing. Having toilets. I know that sounds crazy, but you go to a lot of restaurants, you got to get a key, you got to go outside, you got to do all that, whatever. We had toilets inside the restaurant. So I wanted to build a place where people feel comfortable. They could come, and what's really important, if we want to talk about it, we can, but is I wanted to make sure that the menu was food that you could eat every single day of the week if you wanted to and not feel sick.
Yeah. No, it's a good thing because, we're seeing a lot of stuff happen now with, obviously with COVID and the rest of it, and then situational dining, but we'll talk about it. But the menu is important because at the end of the day, you said something that really sparked up before, and I contest to it, is why I love coming to Hellenika. And I could come there 3-4 times a week because of the way you've designed your menu. You remember Ryan Squires at the time opened in Brisbane, and I said, mate, great restaurant and you're a talented chef, but you can only come here once every couple of months. And for me, it's more like once a year because it's that real top-end fine dining degustation.
And they've got their place, but that's not my place.
Correct. And you've always stayed. So the key takeaway for listeners there is strong vision, years in the making, and staying true to what you believe and see in.
Basically, I don't fuck with it ever.
Yeah.
So none of my chefs in any of my venues are allowed to change the menu without me. So basically I write the menus basically, and then if they have some ideas, they come to me, but nothing gets changed without me because, you might wake up one morning as a chef and you think, oh, that's cool, I want to put that on the menu. Well, the customer that there's been waiting a year from Melbourne to fly back to Brisbane to stay at the Carlisle, they don't give a shit what you thought about is cool for whatever. They want to know that that's going to be on the menu and it's going to be exactly the same or better, if anything, and that's what we try and do. Yeah,
I agree, and it's obviously a tribute to why it's still now in Brisbane. You've got Hellenika kicking so many goals. So after Hellenika down there, you did Fish House, right?
Yeah, the Fish House in Burleigh.
Because that was a roaring success.
Yeah, that's my sort of a bit of a mistake there. I sold it probably a touch early, and then some developers came along, and the next guy made a fortune out of it. No, I took a really long lease. Again, in Burleigh Heads, when no one was opening up anything, it was on the opposite side of the beach in a little old house. And I remember the council said to me, it was a great day because the council said to me, I'd like you to build forward all the way to the street. And I'm like, fucking perfect, extra space, a bit of extra space. And anyway, I built a place called the Fish House, and I flew in fish every single day, which I still do, which a lot of people don't realise. I flew it in every single day from a seafood supplier called Ocean Made in Melbourne, and it was only the best. And it was stuff that people didn't have in Queensland at all. So no one knew the difference between whiting, sand whiting, and King George whiting. I mean, I got a King George whiting tattooed on my arm. I mean, that's how much it meant to me, and that's what it changed. It just changed my restaurant. Things like King George whiting, garfish, John Dory, these sorts of fish that people had never heard of.
Never touched, yeah.
Like I have this thing with gold band snapper. It's not a real fucking fish, and people need to understand that it's not knobby snapper. It's not that beautiful snapper that you're thinking of. Knobby snapper, gold band snapper is. It shouldn't be on people's menus, but it's everywhere because it's cheap and they hear the name snapper. But I just wanted to make sure that everything again, my downfall is every single one of my restaurants, the produce prices, the food costs are out of the world.
Your food costs would be crazy.
They're crazy. And some people say to me, I'm expensive. I don't mind if they say I'm expensive, but overpriced I'm not.
No, definitely not overpriced. And to me, expensive, you value because you're getting what you pay for.
Yeah.
To me, expensive is when you're not getting what you pay for.
Correct.
You're paying for King George whiting, but you're not getting sand whiting. That's when you're expensive, right?
Exactly.
So, no, look, and you start to see a theme here, listeners. I mean, you're talking to someone, you can hear the passion in Simon's voice. Success is not overnight. And I tell this to my kids, 16 and 14-year-old. I say, you don't start with success. You don't start on the 20th story of a building. Everything comes with foundations, and obviously with Simon's foundations, and then to go on and stay true, there's some homage. And then obviously, what made you make the big move to Brisbane?
Well, I'd been looking at opening in Brisbane for a long time, and a lot of agents, used to send me properties and things, and I kept driving up the highway and thinking, that site was great, but the rent was too expensive, or that site was great, but, whatever. There was something wrong with the sites every time. And then Greer Giddos and Michael Platzis, they rang me and they said, come and have a look at this. And I said, no, I'm not interested. I'm done. Like, fuck, I've been looking for 5 years. It's not going to happen.
And you run high intensity. Like your attention to detail is phenomenal, right? People can hear that in your voice, but I've seen it firsthand. Your attention to detail, you're on the sites, you're doing the menus, you're handpicking everything. It's not a normal, that's not how a lot of people operate, right? So I can understand when Simon's saying he's done, you can understand why he was done,
Yeah, I just thought it's not going to, no, it's not going to happen. Anyway, long story short, Michael Platzis and Greer convinced me to come up. I went and had a look. I met with the Maloofs who own the hotel. Yeah,
good boys.
And I'm telling you, in 5 minutes, we basically knew it was on and we shook hands and it was done. They were talking about their bricks. They were talking about the detail that it was just, I felt like it was right. Yeah. It felt right in my stomach straight away, and I didn't have to make excuses for anything. Every argument we've ever had since, and when I say argument, I mean discussion about anything is, should we do that? No. Yep. Great. Oh, yeah, that's probably fair enough. Yep. Okay, great. Done. And that is the landlords that I've got with Cal and Michael. It's sensational. It's the best relationship with a landlord you could possibly ever have.
Yeah, I met the boys many, many years ago when they were doing James Street Markets. And we were talking about the Spoon site.
Yep.
And phenomenal guys to deal with and talk to, and they get it, right? And it's a marriage.
Yep.
So, key takeaway for people when you're looking, to do business with somebody and not just landlords, it's got to match. It's got to fit.
And I think I don't care how it sounds, but gut feel is very important.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you didn't get to where you are by just being book smart or you've got to have that. That's it. Well, you and me both, right? It's about that gut feel. It's about weighing up, because gut feel comes from you being able to process what's going on, combining that with your vision, what your must haves, your must not haves, your do's and your don'ts, and then putting it all together. And that's why the gut feel is important, because it's something will tweak in there whether it's right or it's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
I never forget buying the first building here at Abbotsford Road, and everyone told me I was fucking stupid. You're selling your apartment to buy a building on a main road where so many cars go past every day, and I mean this real estate now 2,000 square meters is priceless. And sometimes though it is gut feel. I'm hearing you, and those listeners there. If you've got that gut feel, of course you've got to be comfortable with your worst case scenario. Yeah. You've got to map out what the worst possible thing is. But once you're comfortable with the worst case, you just take that gut and you run with it, and you do what you need to do to make it happen. Yeah. So tell me. Obviously, Brisbane, it's been great. What's been the highlights?
Well, I think opening in a hotel like the Carlisle, it was a big risk. And what people don't realise, I suppose, is that no one wanted, well, when I say no one, people didn't want the sites that I ended up taking. That there wasn't...
Because they weren't street facing.
You know what I mean? Yeah, people saying there's no one's ever going to walk upstairs to go to a restaurant, blah, blah, blah. But But the reason why I took it is because it was upstairs and it takes it off the street and it was the way the guys designed the hotel, it's not a rooftop where you got to go up 30 floors in a little lift. You can walk up a nice big set of stairs from the front. It's a grand sort of entry, and then you're on a pool deck, so you feel open. It's
very unique.
It's unique, and I think my highlight is sort of opening up Hellenika, and it worked. And when I say worked, I even got caught short a little bit at the start. I don't do things in halves. We do things properly, and 6 months was. The first 6 months was a fucking, oh my God, mate. It was.
Everyone's running crazy, right? You're overworking your team, you're overworking yourself.
I had, I made myself sick basically because we were so far. Everyone wanted to come though. The beautiful thing is the customers were there, the guests were there, and they came and they wanted to come back and they were spending money. And I was like, shit, okay, we got to match the enthusiasm here and get it right. And we did. And it took at least 6 months just to get it to a level that I was happy saying, okay, we're at. We're operational here, and then building on that, obviously. And
it comes at a cost, right? So let's talk us through that, if you don't mind. Talk about the emotional side of it. And obviously it takes time away from family, all sorts of stuff. So talk us through that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, you can ask my family. We have family dinner every Monday night. Mum, dad, my brothers, and whatever. And I would sit there and I wouldn't speak. I was just so. I was so fucking tired, mate. It takes every part of you, and I'm not a business guy, so it's not an investment for me. I'm not just a creative guy. I'm not just the menu guy. Like, it was every part of me was that business, from the uniforms to the thing. So, yes, I don't do them all, and yes, I have chefs and yes, whatever, but every single facet of that business is me.
You carry the responsibility.
You do. And maybe people don't realise too, just at these little 4 restaurants that I've got, there's 350 staff just there. So, and we've got some other things that I sort of do as well. So 350 people that I'm responsible for, the customers that come in. Hellenika can do 1,000 people in a day. I don't think people realise that, It's crazy, and it does have a toll.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
There is a lot of moving parts, and in those numbers, thank you for sharing them, because it helps people put things in perspective, right? Especially when, you get a lot of good accolades, but we also get the few little rogues that want to, my fish was a little bit cold, or my fish was too fishy, or, or it wasn't plated right. And, unfortunately it comes the ebbs and flows as well, but they don't realise, and again, why we do podcasts like this is so that it can shine that light and say to people, hey, just sometimes hit pause and understand what's going through. I say to people, look up. When you're in a restaurant, look up more. Look around. Look at what they've done. Look at the way they've designed the restaurant, the way the bar sits, the chairs they've chosen, the light fittings, where have they put the toilets or not toilets. What have they done? Because somebody's creative genes has gone into this, but someone's vision and passion comes through in what you produce. And I tell you, nothing better than what's on the plate.
Yep.
Because I come there and your team know 90% of the time it's going to be exactly the same. I'm going to start with the tartare, I'm then going to have the grilled octopus, and then I'm going to have the grilled calamari. No, I don't want the fried one, I want the grilled one. Yeah. Maybe the zucchini chips. Yeah. It's 90% of the time they know exactly, what we're going to eat because of all the things you said about. Or you can start exploring new stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it really is a tribute, because at the end of the day, I love what you said, you're not a business person.
Yeah.
Right. You're a hospitality person. And what does it mean? You like to be hospitable to people.
Yeah.
And everything that you do has to shine through in what you do. And if people have been to your venues, they will know that. And if they haven't, they need to go and visit. Talk me through Sunshine, because I'll let you a little secret. I'm not backwards and going forwards. Yeah. When it opened as just vegetarian, I went, okay. I've got a lot of respect for Simon, but he must be seeing something I'm not seeing, because I can't see this lasting. But talk me through that. Talk me through Sunshine.
So Sunshine is actually, that was probably about 8 years in the making.
Yeah.
So I've been wanting to do it for a long, long time. Just something always popped up. SK opened, or Sushi Room was coming up, or whatever it might have been. But Sunshine, to open up so basically what I wanted it to be, Sunshine is a place where you walk along, you fill your plate up with food, and you pay by weight. So whatever if you're hungry, you pay more. If you're not, you don't.
Great concept.
So
very European concept.
It is, but also I think people are normally used to it at the delis where it's one item. So our struggle was to try and get people to understand that they're all going to be priced the same. Anyway, it's been the biggest learning curve I've ever had. But what I wanted it to be was I said to people, imagine you've gone to a big Greek or Italian wedding or something, and then the next day everyone puts the food on the table and you go along with your plate and fill it up.
Fantastic.
That's where the dream of Sunshine came from, and that's why I wasn't stopping at anything. But I wanted it to be vegetarian because I wanted to showcase that actually European cooking, especially Greek, is actually 90% vegetarian, but people don't think that because they think of Greek and lamb souvlaki every time, It's not the truth. At home, we ate beans and soups and things like
correct.
that. So,
Italians are no different.
Yeah, exactly. The only issue is that I couldn't convince men to come and have lunch there. And that's just a fact. So,
unless they were looking for a partner. There's plenty of females
It's
there.
a very good spot for that, let me tell you. But no, I just couldn't convince men to come and have their lunch there. And it was an issue. So I put some of the Greek meat dishes in and it changed things instantly. And to give you an example, even though vegetarian was busy, turnover went up 20% when I put meat on. So, and that was the key to make the business successful. And so that's what we did.
And I really appreciate you sharing that because, it shows the humbleness in you, because sometimes we have these visions and think that things are going to be, great and all the rest of it. And whilst your intention was right, and I talk a lot about this in business, your intention can be right, doesn't mean the execution is going to be great.
Correct.
Now, your execution wasn't poor.
No.
It just meant, well, hey, to take it to the next level, I've got to add an element. And you did that.
Yep.
And a lot of people out there go broke because they can't get their ego out of their way and say, look, at the end of the day, if a customer's not willing to pay for something, or there's a customer that you want to attract that's not coming, you got to spin the Rubik's Cube, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And so it's a tribute to what you've done with it.
Sunshine, funnily enough, though, is the one that I just come back from Los Angeles and met some people, whatever. Sunshine is the one that people want me to take, around Australia.
You can replicate it pretty quickly,
Yeah, I've still got there's some issues with it because the staff have to walk with the customer all the way along, and it's a 20-meter line, and all that. There's a lot of issues, but I think that Sunshine deserves probably a few more sites.
It's very innovative, mate, and then you might have let something slip there positively, which is good. But especially if there's any landlords out there that want to, the right operator and all the rest of it, with the right deal, of course. No, I don't want any commission. Look, as obviously you won't get much better than Simon Gloftis, but it really is, a homage to your traditions, to your values, to your visions. And what I love about your venues, every venue has a story.
Yeah.
Every venue has a story, has a theme.
All very different.
Yep, all very different. And then you back it up with the team. The team's very different. They're dressed differently. They're different personality. You treat it like a theatre, as in, they're different acts, different roles, different things to play. And I, honestly, and you know me, I don't blow smoke up people's ass. I really think that, your Australians' version of say, your Will Guidera and all these guys that really coming along going, hey, I had this vision. This is what I want to do and what I want to do. I mean, and I appreciate well, mate, you deserve that accolade because it's no different to when I started in the coffee business and everyone thought, well, who's this fucking punk coming along who's just going to start selling coffee? And
should we tell them how we met? Do you remember?
Yeah, mate. Well, you can tell them the story, mate.
Well, I don't know how you remember it, but I remember.
I'll tell you how I remember it.
You tell me.
But it was about you wanting this and you wanted a coffee machine and you wanted all the rest of it. And I said, fuck, man, I'm not going to make any money out of this deal. So you can stick with Merlot. And you did, but I mean, do you remember it similar like that?
Similar, yeah. And the one thing is I can say is that my cousin had spent time working and roasting for Merlot. So it was probably a bit of that as well. But I remember I was 19, turning 20 when we first met. So 25 years ago. Shit. So, but that was that. It was literally, Merlot or Udavella and both great. And we loved your coffee and whatever, but it's just one of those things that we chose that way. And I still remember that time, but anyway, it was just.
That's right. Your brother ended up using it.
Yeah,
so it's all good. But mate, and again, it's a tribute to who you are and a tribute to who I am. I always say to people, business is business, personal is personal. And I've never looked at it negatively because it's just the way I operate. Yeah. It's just like people, do you go to
wouldn't
venues?
last long if you did.
No, mate. And I certainly wouldn't have built the company that I did.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I built it on relationships. I built it on people. I built it on, helping cafe owners make money, not trying to sell them a bag of coffee. Yeah. It was just very, like you, very clear focus, very clear vision, very clear outcomes. And I said, there's plenty of people out there that know more about coffee than me. Yeah. That's not my area of expertise. Yeah. I know the business of coffee. Yeah. I know how to help cafe owners make money. Yeah. That's my forte. That's my super strength. And that's what I'll leverage.
Well, that's what you're doing now as well.
Totally. And that the Commune is, let's just say I was fortunate enough, and I thank God all the time, and grateful for an amazing exit at the right time. Yeah. And now I can actually do that.
It's nice that you said that too, but I know exactly where you came from again, so I see it. And, if anyone says it was an accident, they're kidding themselves.
Oh, mate, there's no accidents. I mean, and there's, the collateral damage, right? I was 70 kilos overweight. I was traveling 3 weeks a month. My wife wanted to divorce me. My children sending me messages through fucking FaceTime and shit. Well, FaceTime didn't exist then. They're sending you texts going, Papa, I miss you. You being healthy? Are you eating right? Like, nothing comes for nothing, right? And I don't play the poor me. I just say to people, if you're not prepared to do the work, don't expect the rewards.
100%.
You're not going to get there. And but anyway, it's not about me, mate. It's about you, the show. But tell me, if you had to go back to the 19-year-old self, what would be different? Except obviously choosing DeBella over Merlot. But what would you do? What would you do differently?
Fuck, I wouldn't do hospitality.
Be a creative designer somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's a. I think hospitality is the greatest business, or the greatest industry, or whatever you want to call it in the world, but it's not for everyone. And I would strongly, I was talking to some people the other day and I'm trying to help them with a site, and they said, well, we don't really want to do nights, so we want to have, and I'm like, nah, you're fucked. Yep. It's not going to work straight away because you're already putting, restrictions on what you're wanting to do. So in other words, you want a lifestyle, Everyone gets bored and goes, I want to open up a cafe. Well, or a coffee shop. Do you really want to? Do you really want to do it? Is there a need for it in that location? Is there, or do you just think you're going to open up a coffee shop and sell a few coffees and it's going to be cute and whatever? It's not how it works. You get in there and it's a grind.
Excuse the pun.
Excuse the pun. Yeah, and it's nonstop. And it doesn't stop. And the problems, if you get busier, get bigger, and
it's relentless.
It's relentless. It
relentless is a key word, and it's good advice, because I say to people right now, there would have been over 50 cafes that I said to last year.
Mate, I think we've got a cafe per person in this country.
Well, 26,500, mate, and
do we really?
Yeah, 26,500 cafes in Australia. Pre-COVID was 19,500.
Yeah, right.
And that's one of the things I'm pushing now. And again, I get called mad all the time, which I don't mind. And I don't like the word regulation, but there's got to be some sort of planning, in Europe, and I'm not sure if Greece is the same, but in Italy, they're not going to give you a license to open 3 Greek restaurants in the same suburb.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they just won't allow it. They'll say, we've got one Greek restaurant, and if it's overflowing, they might let you open another one.
Yeah.
But then they don't overflood the market and just give licenses out.
Yeah.
They and again, the word is negative, but they regulate to a certain extent. Yeah. They don't stifle creativity. But
that's the important part.
Well, they go, Simon, instead of opening the Greek, well, how about, have you thought of a fish? Or have you thought of a sunshine or a sushi room? No, not putting 2 Greeks in the same, same vicinity. And I'm a big fan of that model. Because unfortunately, I don't like seeing people go broke.
Yep.
People don't understand the impact of what happens when somebody loses their money.
Yep.
That not only does it affect their immediate family and their family, their children, if they've got them, whatever it is, but then it flows down to the suppliers.
Of course.
And the suppliers have got families.
Of course.
And there's just this, by the time you throw a pebble in the water here, you end up with a tsunami down the end.
That's right.
And then you've got bad reputation and you've got bad blood and it's just not worth it. So when people like you are giving advice and saying to people, look, this is what what I suggest you do or don't do, and they don't want to take it, well, then there's a problem in itself, right?
I think one thing that I would definitely suggest to people is, when you're opening up a venue or you want to open up a venue, don't think, I'm going to go next to Hellenika, or I'm going to go next to SK and put a steak restaurant because I'm going to take some of that business or whatever it might be. No, bring something of your own to the area. Don't take away from what's there, because to be honest with you, there's not much there. Australia's spread out. We're not America. We don't have 400 million people. There's not bring something with you, and it'll last 10 times longer. It'll be better for the area. The people will thank you for it, and it would create. Look at James Street. Okay, James Street. People think, it's James Street, so let's go open there. No. James Street got built by people who care about it and built it properly. Yeah, so that's why we like it. I mean, there's a lot of retail in there because they know that they want people to go there, buy their, shorts, T-shirts, dresses, whatever it might be, and at a reasonable price. When I say reasonable, it's not the low end of the market, but it's not the Louis Vuittons and whatever. There's a reason why James Street works, because people can go and shop there, and it's achievable. So I would just say to people, don't go and open up because you think something else is busy. No, you create your own market, and people will come for you, and it's better for everybody. Yeah,
look, it's very smart, and really, James Street is a great example of what I'm talking about. The perfect Europe, where that it is built by some smart boys and families, right? Not just boys, but some obviously ladies as well, but smart families that have gotten together and say, right, what's the right mix look like? Yeah. There's not 20 bloody Greek restaurants, 20 bars, and there's a really nice mix and harmonious feel to the whole of James James Street.
Yep.
You know, and again, that's been put together because you've got smart operators.
Yes.
But if you go to other areas that haven't lasted, you know, your Park Roads, your Rosalee's, that could have been a James Street years ago because they were first out. But what happened there? Well, you ended up with 3 pizza shops in the one street.
That's right.
You ended up with 50 cafes doing the same thing.
Mate, when I had 3 Beans in Broadbeach, Surf Parade was the spot. Everyone moved from Main Beach, Terrav, and they came to Surf Parade, and now it's gone to shit.
Yeah,
you know,
mate, you're right. It's crazy, and you just have to look at that data. So some good advice there for the listeners. Tell me, what are you predicting for the future? What does hospitality look like moving forward?
Well, I think we're in a funny little spot. I'll just tell you, you know, inflation and price wise. I mean, we look at our menu prices weekly, and they've gone up, and they've had to go up because we go according with what we pay. I don't know where that's going to stop. I'm feeling a little bit nervous. I feel it's slowed down a bit, but I'm feeling a little bit nervous for a lot of venues because I know what I'm making out of some of my items, and it's not much.
You're absorbing some of it.
Exactly,
Well,
a lot of it. So I don't know how venues that can't charge what they need to charge are going to survive or are surviving, and they're probably not. People probably are trading insolvent and don't even realise. So
yeah, and that's you made a couple of good points there. So in the cafes, because you're restaurants, obviously, in the cafe side, about 10% of people are making single-digit profit, and about 60% are treading water, and the rest of them, 30-odd%, are not making any money. Yeah. And the scary part is that a lot of them wouldn't even know that.
Yeah.
They don't know their numbers. And obviously we've been pushing hard in the media and talking a lot about it starts with the customer. If the customer has the disposable income to pay and is prepared to pay for it, then the cafe and the restaurant can make some money. But there's got to be an equilibrium, and that's the scary part you talk about, is that you can't just keep putting your prices up in line with your costs going up. Otherwise, no one can afford.
That's right.
You know, can afford it. So, and this is for the listeners. This is what restaurateurs, this is what business owners are going through right now in hospitality. Is trying to juggle what is the right price I can charge that you can afford, but at the same time not trade insolvent.
Yes.
And you've articulated that beautifully. And we talk about that when it comes to a cup of coffee. You know, if you had to pay the price of a cup of coffee, what you should be, it'd be about $8.50, $9.50 now. But you're paying $6.50 or $7 because the owner has absorbed about 20% of the cost. Right. You know, and they can't absorb too much.
I'll give you one little example, which is a funny one, but it's the octopus at Hellenika. Yeah, we've never made money on it. Yeah. Never. Yeah. And I'm charging $40-odd per serve, and we're not making any money on it.
But it's flown in from where? WA?
We're only South Australia.
South Australia?
So I only use South Australian octopus. But so it goes South Australia to Melbourne on the plane, and then we get it and we cook. But I don't think people realise we're actually losing money. We've never made money on that dish ever. So there's dishes that not only are you not making a lot, we're losing money on them. So, you know, it's crazy.
And then that's part of the whole thing, because obviously someone doesn't come there and just eat octopus, but just it paints the picture perfect that people understand, you know, and the next person that says to me, oh, you know, but I can cook this cheaper at home, I think you just need to stay home and eat. You know, because of course you can, because 45% wages
exactly.
these days. I don't know what you're running, but I mean, you don't skimp on your wages. No. I use you as an example, and I will be continuing to, I hope you don't mind, Australia-wide when we start talking to the federals about training wage, right? I see the amount of work that you do with your training of your team, and you're a perfect example. Well, then why can't a Simon Gloftis have a 4-week period that you pay a training wage, because you're effectively training their careers, right? You're upskilling them. If they were going to uni, they're paying to go to uni, whereas you're still going to pay them, but you pay them a training wage for 4 weeks, and then 4 weeks later they graduate and they join your main team. They're ready to go. They're fresh and ready, and you've upskilled them.
You've sold me.
You know, well, mate, I'm just going to need to sell the politicians. I might need your help on that one too. But that's the sort of stuff that we're tackling, right? Because we want to see businesses like yours and people like you not only continue to grow, but we want to see you inspire others. And that's what people don't understand. And this is the picture I'll paint, and that scares me, the shit out of me, Simon, is I'm not that old, right? I'm 49. I'm older than you, I believe. Yep. But I'm 49. And it was only in the 90s where people didn't know what to do with coffee. I'd go around with a sample in 1993 and they go, do I pour hot water on this? No, you got to grind it and put it through a machine, mate, right? It's not instant. You know, it wasn't until the 2000s and 2010 really that you could go comfortably into most cafes and get a decent coffee. Yeah. Right? You fast forward now, you go into most cafes, you'll get a decent coffee. It might not be memorable, might not be special, might not be an origin, might not be fruity, but you'll get a decent coffee in most venues.
Yes.
We're only talking the last 15 years.
Yeah, mate.
If we don't inspire that next generation,
Yep.
is Simon Gloftis going to be doing what you're doing in 15 or 20 years' time?
Hard.
No. Like we're not going to have the venues. We're not going to have the Hellenikas. We're not going to have the Sunshines. We're not going to have the Sushi Rooms and the SKs in 15 or 20 years' time if we don't inspire the next generation.
Mate, in 2010, I opened Hellenika on the Gold Coast, and I had to go around to the tables and say to people, it's sharing food. Imagine you're at a Chinese restaurant and the food comes to the middle of the table.
Hilarious.
No one fucking knew what sharing food was. And we're talking 2010.
Yeah.
So that's quite amazing where we've come. And now you can't go to a restaurant without sharing food.
Yeah.
Now it's all.
and then the scary part is how quickly could it go backwards?
Yeah.
If you don't get, I mean, I'm not seeing, and I've got access, been in this industry now a while and we've done quite well in it. I get to see a lot of the numbers and the people coming through. And I tell you, there's not a lot of 20-year-olds coming through that inspired to want to open in this industry.
Yeah.
And again, I can't blame some of them.
Yeah.
But if we're not using stories like yours and your examples and then having people like you that actually are passing down that wisdom, here we go. How many people would you say out of your 350 would want to open their own venue?
Oh, mate. They all think they want to, but no chance.
Yeah.
No. The numbers have, everything's changed. It's changed. The start, anyway, I could go on it for hours and hours and hours, but no, I think there's probably 5 or 6 that are really capable of doing it, and maybe less than that are actually going to do it now. So
yeah, well, there you go. And that's on 350 people. So, and that's one of the things that I see is leaving that legacy behind where we go, yep, you've done well, you'll continue to do well, but also then what are you going to leave behind that will help others? And I know that you're big on that stuff, especially with your European background and all the rest of it. But it comes down to work ethic, right?
100%.
What would you say is the key ingredient of a perfect staff member?
We talk about this a lot because we have a HR department. It's not like it's outsourced. It's
you
not.
Got to run it like a business.
We got to run
like a company. Yeah,
exactly. So presentable, on time, learn, continue to learn, and the big one at the moment is being present. Okay, so I don't know if it's phones or whatever it's done, but we're all a bit fucked in the head now and we don't listen to the customer. We don't look at them and talk. We just have our head down because we know what we're sort of supposed to do. Just look at the person, talk to them, have a conversation and understand and be present in that moment. And so, there's a few things some little checklists that we go through in all our training and what have you. But, my dad always said, you should love every job that you've ever had, even if it's shit. I'm like, why? And he goes, well, if it's good, you'll love it. And if it's shit, you won't be there forever, so you love it anyway. So that was my attitude. So just when you're at work, do the right thing, work hard, understand that the boss is struggling and we're not there to try and rob people and rip everyone off. We're trying to pay a fair day's pay for a fair day's work, and that's all there is to it,
Now you've summed it up, and listeners, notice one thing. Simon didn't talk about any technical skills. He talked about attitude. That's the key takeaway. He talked about attitude, and I always say you can teach the skills in hospitality. Yeah. You can teach people to carry 3 plates, 4 plates, 5 plates, but what you can't teach is being present. Yeah. I always say you want to interview people, take them out to a cafe or restaurant, see how they treat the waitstaff.
Yes.
And people will say, and your team at your venues will know that I could be mid-sentence in a business meeting, and if they put something on the table, I'll look at them and thank them. I'll stop mid-sentence because that's the upbringing. That's not just because I'm in hospitality. That's the upbringing from a young age, right? Is acknowledging people, looking at them in the eye. And so again, I say it for the listeners, attitude over skill.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time.
And the key one for me right now, Simon, is enthusiasm.
Yeah,
there's so much doom and gloom, and people want to whinge and complain. And I get it. People have got COVID fatigue. A lot of them are doing it tough financially. But show a bit of enthusiasm.
Yep. Absolutely. I've got a staff member. Her name's Jess. I won't say her last name, but her name's Jess, and she started with us at SK, and she has forced me to promote her.
How amazing! Her
attitude is so good. Yeah. Her work ethic is so good. She's like, no, you're promoting me. I'm going, I want to do this. Now we're here. And mate, now she's running SK. Yeah. I'm like, fuck, I didn't even want to give it to you. Yeah. But she forced me to because her attitude is absolutely amazing.
Isn't that amazing? And care, attention. And again, that's where a lot of your managers and co-partners and stuff have come through, right? Like you've got, your managers do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, look at Theo. Theo, who I brought in as a business partner, started delivering linen to the restaurant. He couldn't speak English, from Greece. He then he became a food runner, and I said to him, I said, mate, fuck, you got to learn a little bit of English, and I am Greek, so I can say that. But and then I ended up giving him a share of Hellenika and then giving him a share of every restaurant after now.
Yeah, look at him. And he's amazing, right? I deal closely with Theo. I mean, he's actually, I don't break your chops when I do the booking. I text Theo.
Everyone does, which is great.
But I said to him, Theo, if you need anything, let me know. He reached out during COVID and stuff. I said, you need anything from me, just let me know. But that's true hospitality, right?
Yeah.
And people like Theo, I love those stories.
Yeah, man.
I've carved out 20% of my whole company of Commune, right? And it's not a small business. Nice. And I've given it to my exec team. Yeah. And I said, you got to run it like it's yours. Yeah. And that means I can take 20 weeks a year off and do what I do. I still do 52 weeks worth of work. I just got to do it in 32 weeks, right? Yeah, but you've got to do that. And for the listeners out there, aspire. You don't have to own your own business outright. Yeah. You start in, imagine starting at a place like bloody Hellenika or Sunshine or any of your venues and working your way all the way up, forcing you to bloody, to promote them, and then saying, hey, I've got some money saved and I want some skin in the game.
Yep.
Because I think that's a future for a lot of venues too.
It is, and I think that's probably the only way it's going to happen going forward. I think partnering with chefs and senior staff and this sort of thing, I think that's probably the way
you have to, mate, because I think there's an Italian saying that says no one cares like the owner cares. Yeah. No one's got the eye of an owner. Yeah. They'll see things you don't. And I think, and I know because I've been an employee. I was an employee before I started DeBella Coffee, and then I was a contractor for 2 years before I came back to the Commune after DeBella. And whilst I still in that, treated the business like it's mine, you can switch off.
Yes.
You can switch off.
Yeah, of course.
It's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same. And when it's yours, it's yours. And I mean, that's what goes through. And it doesn't matter what size the business is. Yeah. Small business, medium business, large business. Tell me, parting words. It's all about celebrating you. Talk me through, some of the key highlights that really stand out. If I said to you, two best things that's happened to you, doesn't matter what it is, what comes to mind?
In life or
anything in life?
Well, I got to 43, being a single sort of playing up a little bit and whatever, and I've recently got engaged and getting married early next year.
Congratulations. And you've still got all your hair, mate, too.
Yeah.
I lost mine at 28, but that's all right.
It's one lucky there. But I think business-wise, the move to Brisbane to go into Hellenika just changed everything. And now, I mean, the phone rings and it's the big companies ringing me. It's overseas. It's Sydney Harbour, it's whatever, and it's my choice whether I want to go there or not.
So, question on that, which is important for listeners, right? Yeah. Not because I always say to people, not every project's a winner.
No.
How do you differentiate what am I going to say yes to and what am I going to say no to?
Well, I have another I don't want to be the biggest restaurateur in the world. I want things that are interesting to me, and I choose them at the moment that I think they're right and what sits comfortable with me, because if you don't, you're going to fuck it up, and I just don't think it'll work.
Perfect. Yeah. So again, comes that gut feel.
Yeah.
So it's where experience meets your gut feel.
Yes.
And also what you can take on and can't take on, right?
Yep, exactly.
And I'll leave you with this one. You'll love it. One of yours, the Alexander the Great, talked about when I die, I want my most noble men to carry me because we're all going the same place.
Yeah.
I want the gold coins put out in front of the coffin to show people that it's not coming with me. And I want to be buried with my hands outside the coffin to show that nothing did come with me. And that's why I talk about life's measured in moments. Yep. Mate, you've had some great moments in business. I mean, and no doubt plenty more to come, but make sure that you're taking Simon time and enjoying, especially, you're about to get married and all the rest of it. Yeah. So adds another element.
All the fun's about to start.
Oh, mate, it's always fun. Highs, lows and everything that comes in between.
Exactly.
But enjoy it. Simon, I really appreciate you. I appreciate you in the industry. I appreciate you as a person, and I appreciate that you came on the show to have a chat with us.
Likewise, mate. Thanks very much.
No, thanks, Simon. You've been listening to Phil DeBella and Simon Gloftis. This has been there, done that, where we bring to you amazing people. Today, one of the icons of the Australian dining scenes, Hellenika, SK Steak and Oyster, Sunshine Mediterranean and Sushi Room. If you haven't tried them, they are a must. I'll give you my personal guarantee as a customer. I have been to all four. They are amazing. Go and try it for yourself and see what experts in this industry are really doing from conception to execution. Until next time, go and be the best you can be. That's a wrap for today. Keep listening for more episodes of Been There and Done That. The Coffee Commune is here to help accelerate your potential. We want you to be better tomorrow than today. Until next time, you've been listening to Phil DeBella. I'm the founder and managing director of the Coffee Commune, a place where the coffee community comes to collaborate.